everyone, in this second episode of our crash course in biology, we'll be doing a continuation of recognizing living organisms, and this is the basic introduction into biology. So basically, in the last video I talked about biology and living things. I talked about different branches of biology. I talked about usefulness of biology and the scientific method and approach used in biology, which I said were aims or objective, then your method, then your observation, then your conclusion, then your theory, and so on and so forth. So today we are going to be continuing that, and today we are going to be dealing with living and non-living things. So now, living and non-living things, how do you distinguish between living things and non-living things? Now, living things can be distinguished from non-living things in that living things have different properties. Now, you probably heard of this Mr. Ninja D, right? You've probably heard of Mr. Ninja D, right? But in your secondary school career, you'll be doing with Mr. Ninja Card. That's CAD. So M stands for movement, R stands for respiration, N stands for nutrition, I stands for irritability, G stands for growth, E stands for excretion, R stands for reproduction, C stands for competition, A stands for adaptation, and D stands for death. Now, these are basic properties that are carried out by every single living organism. Every single living organism will move. Every single living organism will respire, will eat, will sense its environment, which will also grow. It will excrete its waste product. It will reproduce in order to ensure its continuity. It will compete with other similar and non-similar organisms in its environment because of what is known as survival of the fittest. And then it will adapt to those changes that nature pushes at it. And then lastly, it will die when it has grown old to a maturity stage. Now these are the major properties of living organisms. And whenever you see anything, whether moving or not moving, and then just examine it. Like when you see a plant, examine it, watch it in 2 days or 3 days. Now, is it carrying out any of this property? Did you notice that it is growing? If it is growing, it is increasing in length. Then it is definitely a living organism. But when you see a stone, an ordinary stone, or just a marker now, a marker does not move, but I can move the marker, but it doesn't move on its own. A marker does not respire. A marker does not eat. A marker does not, though you might make a pun of that marker eats ink, but that's not very true. A marker is a non-living thing. Nutrition is in living organism. Nutrition has to do with edible substances, not just chemical substances. Now we have growth, living organism growth. Now virtually every living organism at one stage or the other in its life will have to grow. So every organism always starts from a nymph or from an egg stage, from a fetus to a nymph or to a larva to a pupa, and so on and so forth. In the case of vertebrates, we move from the fetus to the embryo, then from the embryo to the infants, from the infant to the toddler, from the toddler to so on and so forth. That's for human beings. Then for other animals, they also have the similar, especially vertebrates. Vertebrates always have a similar beginning. All of them, they begin from a similar fetal structure. So they have the same fetal structure. Then they now, as time goes on, it now differentiates into different animals. So that shows that we as living organisms, every living organisms, they are similar, because when we develop from our fetal stage, we are all the same ball of cells. Even a fish started as a ball of cells. A lion started as a ball of cells, a lizard started as a ball of cells. But as time goes on, because of the genetic properties, the genetic information that distinguish us as different animals, because even human beings are animals, but we are specialized type of animals. So you should always remember that human beings are specialized type of animals. So even as us, we are all animals, and we always have that feature. So that is why we can always say living organisms. Animals are also living organisms. Plants are living organisms. Fungi are living organisms. Monerans are living organisms, and protists are living organisms. Now, if you don't understand when I said monera and protists, you can check that out in the video I made in this channel on classification of living organisms, if you want to gain more knowledge on that. So moving on, all of these I've mentioned, all of these kingdoms, they always perform these properties. So that's that. And then Now we've talked about different classification of living organisms. Now let's talk about plants and animals now. So what are the differences between plants and animals? So plants are those things, those green leafy structures you see, those things that you pluck fruits from them, those things that you sit under in the afternoon sun and you receive the shade, all those things that, all those structures, all those living things, those are plants. From your shrubs, from your grasses, from your mango tree, from your maize plant, from your guava and all the rest, those are plants. Those are all plants. Now there are different types of plants, but then we have animals. Now animals, what are the differences between plants and animals? You can say plants stay in one place, right, and animals move. So you can say plants have slow movement while animals have fast movement. So it's not as if plants don't move, because even growth is a type of movement, but the thing is that the plant movement, it is slow and it is not often noticeable. Even the root of a plant, it grows downwards, positive geotrophism, and the shoot grows upwards, negative geotrophism. So that is, plant exhibits trophic movement, but animals exhibit tactic movement. So there are different properties and differences between plants and animals. You can keep listening and listening and listening. Some of them you can even formulate them from your eyesight, from what you can see. When you compare yourself with a plant, what's the difference? You can see that plants are often green, right? But are you green? You are not green. You have your different colors. You can be brown, you can be black. So plants are often green, while animals are not green, are not always green. You understand? So there are animals that are green too. Some like Spirogyra. So those are called those are specific types of rather actually they are plants. They are plants actually. So they are animals that are kind of like chameleons. Chameleons can change their color to have a green color. So that is different. But animals, they are not always green. So these are differences. You can keep listening about plants and animals. And the reason why we are talking about differences between plants and animals is that plants and animals are the major classifications of kingdoms of living organisms. So and then let's round this video up by talking about organization of life and complexity. Now there's a reason why you can see that some animals are big, some plants are big, some plants are small. Some are microscopic, some are larger. Now in biology, there's what we call cells. Some animals and some living organisms exist as cells. Plants that exist as cells include Spirogyra. Then animals that exist as cells include Euglena. Though Euglena is like a combination of a plant and an animal. Euglena is like is a plant like an animal like organism. So I cannot really talk about Euglena. Let's give another example. Let's give an example. Amoeba. Amoeba. So these are plants and animals that can exist as cells. So these cells, they are basic units. You understand? So now animals and plants can exist as cells. That's the basic structure. And then it can also exist as tissues. A tissue is the combination of cells. So the living organisms can exist as cells. They can exist as tissues. They can exist as organs. Organs is like a group of tissues combining to synchronize and perform the same function. Organs. And then we have lastly we have systems. So when you combine all these systems together, you get a multicellular organism. Now, examples of organisms that you can see as these cells are these Spirogyra. Though this Spirogyra it exists as a filament actually. So, but specifically, we can see amoeba as a cell. Amoeba, paramecium, and Euglena. If you are not familiar with this, you had better get familiar with it, because these are our jargonry in biology. So just get used to it. Then these exist as cells. Then tissues, you can see other organisms existing as tissues, just like your hydra, your algae, and so on and so forth. So these tissues, they are just like a combination of cells. Then your organs, you can see organisms existing as organs, and even parts of other organisms. For example, when you see a fruit in a plant is like an organ in that plant. So and then when you have system is like a group of organs. For example, we've heard of digestive system, right? in your junior school or in your basic secondary education, you've probably heard of digestive system, where we talk about the stomach, the sphincter, the liver, and so all those organs, they combine together to form a system. Then when we talk about the combination of all these systems, they give us a multicellular organism. Now there are different advantages and disadvantages of multicellularity. For example, when we become multicellular, it becomes difficult for us to diffuse materials throughout the body. For example, when you breathe in oxygen, it takes some time for the oxygen to get to every part of your body. Because why? Because you are like a complex arrangement of systems, so it takes time for the diffusion to occur. Whereas in simple organisms like amoeba, their diffusion occurs very very fast. So that shows you that in nature there are trade-off for everything. For the advantages of multicellularity, there are also disadvantages, and vice versa. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so as to keep getting all these things, all this educational stuff. Thank you.